Greetings, nerds. This is SNN Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well. How are you this evening, Sarah?
I'm doing fine. We have a shit ton to talk about.
Yes, we do.
Because content just loves to pour or just dwindle.
Yeah. It's like true feast or famine. It's like, as we were talking beforehand, this tonight we've got obviously Across the Spider-Verse. We've got Superman and Lois, which you've limited me to like 5 minutes, and then of course Vanderpump Rules, and then of course there's just and there's actually some news this week too, as far as things going on with the various professional guilds. So yeah, we just jump right into it because it's a lot.
Yeah, and I need listeners this is becoming a joke, a pre-show joke between me and Will about certain times when I'm like, dude, you gotta limit this to 5 minutes. And then he even will tell me, Sarah, I only have 5 minutes to discuss about this show, and it's never 5 minutes.
You break it just as much as I do.
Okay, sure. But I also never tell you, like, yeah, I only have 5 minutes. But sometimes I understand, but sometimes I'm like, really? We had to, interesting. Yeah. We'll see where this conversation takes us, but like we said, we have a lot to get to, and as we were talking about before, feast or famine, and it looks like there's going to be some famine in our future, as the first news topic is Will is going to update us on the whole writer's strike.
Yeah, so the writer's strike continues, but there has been some glimmer of hope. The Directors Guild did come to an agreement this week with the producers in the studios. So the Directors Guild, I think their board has ratified the agreement, and they will give it to the full membership. So for a while there, it was looking like by the end of this month that potentially all three guilds were going to be have a complete work stoppage, but that's not the case now. The directors came to some agreement on things as far as their benefits, and also the global residuals, also things related to AI, where that's a big thing that for all the guilds right now, where they are making sure that AI can't be used to replace actors, and also some residuals. The Directors Guild, especially given that we have the variety shows and reality shows that we've been branching out on those now here on the podcast with Vanderpump, but they're also the Directors Guild was able to negotiate residuals for that and some other things as well. But it was clearly an agreement that they all the guild felt very good about, and so that one is that guild is moving forward. As Sarah noted, the Screen Actors Guild was another big news this week. The guild, 97% of the, I guess it was about 45% of the membership was actually higher than what was previously out. I guess when they had their negotiations 3 years ago or so ago, voted to authorize a strike authorization. Now, they are still under contract as far as their current contract with the Screen Actors Guild and the Theatrical Arts, but if they don't come to an agreement by the end of this month, they will also have a work stoppage, and will be joining the writers in their writer strike, which doesn't look like it's making any movement at all. This seems to be a stalemate at this point, and it's interesting because of the guilds. I mean, the writers and directors are smaller compared to the screenwriters, which I guess that's also, with the turnout with the vote, kind of shows that as well. I think I heard where like the Screen Actors Guild has over 100,000 members or so, but the other two are obviously much smaller. But of course, the Screen Actors Guild, we've talked about this before here on the pod, some of their things as far as, of course, AI being one of the things, and also just compensation, just and also residuals for properties, especially things that are on streamers and stuff, because you may see an actor get booked, and we've had actors on the show before and they talk about the whole booking process and with auditions and stuff, and they get a nice little check for that. But the thing is, where they really a lot of times make their money to sort of sustain them with as they are auditioning for new projects is the residuals. So that's one of the things that the Screen Actors Guild is really pushing hard for, in addition to the AI protections and other things like that. So, but that's where things stand with the guilds as of June 8th.
Man, well, if all else is lost, we will certainly maybe have some updates
Yeah.
about all of this stuff if there's nothing else to talk about, because just while all of these union negotiations are underway, shows are wrapping up, and there are shows that have finished and are going to come out, but then eventually we'll get to that point where we'll see the effects of all of this, certainly with delays. And speaking about shows wrapping up, Ted Lasso wrapped up its 3rd season. So, Will,
Mm-hmm.
3rd season of Ted Lasso, it's really interesting to me because I remember the 2nd season of Ted Lasso, there being a little bit of controversy with the viewers about, like, really, you took that character and you made him the bad guy? This season, they kind of undid everything, and the season finale, emphasis on season finale, felt like a series finale.
I thought it was.
But we know.
Oh.
What?
I thought this was it. I thought it was the 3rd and final season.
Okay, well, see, is it? Because nobody told me, and
Okay.
unless you did, and I forgot.
I don't watch Ted Lasso, but whenever I thought when I saw some of the things when it was premiering, and I could be wrong, but I thought it was like the 3rd and final season.
Because I could have sworn, because I listened to people talk about this show, and they've never said that it was the final season. However, the way they ended it, it felt like now even on IMDb it says the season finale. It doesn't say the series finale.
Okay.
So it's weird. I don't know. I can appreciate why they went this direction, because with Ted Lasso, the big premise is you have an American football coach go overseas because he's trying to run away from his divorce to coach a soccer team.
Mm-hmm.
I know we're talking England, so it's football over there, but I'm American. So by the 3rd season, and everything that we've learned about him, his ex-wife, and his son, it kind of is like this season is mainly about, Ted, why are you still here? Like, what is the point?
Mm-hmm.
You have a kid over there who you can barely see. So without saying where this goes, you kind of get what I'm leaning toward in terms of how they ended this as a series finale. But they did it in a crafty way where they didn't necessarily hint at, they didn't like leave a big Easter egg of like, oh, this is how he's gonna come back. But they also tied it, but they didn't tie everything tight. Maybe that's the way I should put it.
Okay.
It wasn't tight. It definitely feels like there's more to tell.
Okay.
And the dark side of me, I'm just like, the ex-wife is gonna die, and then like, I swear to God, I was playing like that's gonna be the big twist. like I went dark. Just because I like the third season a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think nothing's going to compare the first season of Ted Lasso. For the show, I'm not talking in comparison to other shows, but
Okay.
yeah. So I enjoyed it. I'm very curious to see what happens in the fourth season, like in 2026 when we get it,
Yeah.
given all of the strike things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, speaking about things that maybe will come in the distant future eventually. And yet with all the strikes, casting continues to like nourish our entertainment news, and we did talk about the Lois side of the whole new Superman movie and casting, but we didn't talk about the reported actors who are up for Clark, which includes Nicholas Hoult, David Crosswet, and both Will and I looked this up, and we do know him from We Own the City, which
Yep.
we talked about last summer, and if you missed those episodes and if you didn't watch that show, highly recommend. You can
Mm-hmm.
find it on Max, formerly known as HBO Max, but
Yep.
Max. And then Tom Brittany as well. So wait a second, Will.
Yeah.
They're all Brits.
Yeah. I know. They fired one. They fired one Brit, and they're possibly bringing in three. But the thing about Nicholas Hoult, and I know we talked about this beforehand, and bring it here to the show itself. So, he was a finalist for the Batman that ultimately went to Pattinson, and yeah. So I don't think so. My thinking on this is, I think he's actually reading for Lex, and I know like whenever the video, when the video audition tapes went in a few weeks ago, when that story broke, I guess it was around Memorial Day. It was at that point people were just sending audition tapes. There was no in-person auditions or anything like that. Holt was mentioned then. And I think it was maybe Deadline that really just did not back off that. In fact, they don't think that he was actually reading for Superman, but he was actually auditioning for Lex.
Oh, I also would completely buy. He was reading for Superman, but they were just like, "You're Lex."
Yeah.
I mean, as soon as you said Lex, I'm like, yeah, because he was also rumored to be the Riddler at one point, if I'm not mistaken. And he right now, his show, which, forgive me, I have not watched either season of The Great, and I think it's about to come with its third season, but he plays a bad guy. He's a really good actor.
Yeah.
But he's definitely over the years has this type of not being like he's the Schwartz. I'm so glad you laughed at that. Where he can be a good guy, but there's something just a little swarmy about it. Just a little swarmy about it. And if you don't know that reference, you haven't been listening to our deep dives into Vanderpump Rules, which we'll talk about later. But I think there is just something slightly off. So I think that's a great call. And if he's Lex, and I'm just going off of appearance, guys, but David Crosswet for the win. That man is beautiful.
Yep.
I don't know if I simped enough off of him. If I was much of a simp during our We Own the Night or We Own the City discussions, probably because that's a very serious show.
Yeah, I don't think it really. He is, yeah. Whenever, because I had forgotten that until you reminded me that's where we knew him from, and then I was like, oh yeah, and yeah.
And but it's just.
But he can also.
He has a classic face that you automatically associate with Superman.
Right.
So I don't know if it's too on the nose, and they might not go there.
Yeah.
I mean, this goes back to our Lois discussion. Like, we don't know enough about the story that James wants to do with Superman to know who would be the best fit. Because Crosswet could have been easily put into that role for any of the previous ones, minus Christopher Reeve's movies. Like because he fits into that stereotype, that archetype for that character. So I don't know. It wouldn't be as genius casting as John Cena as Peacemaker.
No. But you're right. I mean, it really does. I mean, it's. I guess if given what James has said, he's trying to get that all-American Smallville look.
All-American, and we're gonna hire a Brit.
We're gonna hire a Brit. I'm like I said, we fired one Brit, but we're bringing in some others. But maybe the only thing is Crossway. He is fine. He may be too pretty. But the thing is, I mean, if he can like. And that's where so apparently, according to Deadline today, this next round of auditions will be in person, and are apparently I think taking place over Father's Day weekend. And there could be some more people coming as well, but these were the three actors. And then as far as the Loises, it was just real quick. It was down to Emma Mackey, Rachel Brosnahan, and Phoebe Dwyer, and so maybe again, and maybe to our Lex theory, maybe they're doing tests against each other as far as like Holt base maybe playing the role of Lex and just sort of seeing how they play off one another. So it's all things they're clearly in pre-production. I mean, obviously James can't touch it as far as being a writer now. I mean, now that because of the strike, but he has noted that he is storyboarding things. So I mean, they are clearly moving ahead with this film. So
yeah. I already don't like the idea of Holt being Superman. Which might be a good thing. Like if he gets cast in that role, because then I can be proven wrong. But I can't see it.
Yeah.
And it's just because you brought up Lex. It reminds me of the casting when Jim Krasinski. No, that's his character. What is his actual name? Oh my god.
Oh, John Krasinski?
Yeah, John Krasinski was up for Captain America.
Right.
Yeah, and you're just like, I get why, but it just doesn't match up.
Yeah.
And it's not just because we know Chris Evans, like, it's just Jim from The Office?
Yep.
Huh?
Yeah.
No. So yeah, I can't visualize it, but I can definitely see him as Nicholas, as Lex, or even go back to Batman as Riddler, as like a bad guy in this universe.
Yeah, and Cornswet actually is American.
Who?
David Cornswet. He is actually American.
Why did I? You told me he was a Brit.
No, Tom Brittany's Brit.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're not going to go into the pre-show confusion that was.
Yeah, but I forgot. But actually, I just happened to look at it. As we were talking, just again, because he's such a fine man. I just had to look at him again. And so I saw his IMDb page. He's like, oh, he's from Philly.
Oh, I know why I didn't simp after him, because you were.
Because I was doing it.
Yeah, all right, that's it. We're moving on from Superman. Or are we? Because we do have because Superman and Lois will be off for the unforeseeable future.
for a week.
For a week, because that's what they do.
Yep.
We kind of had a little season finale of its own.
Yeah.
With this episode, I was not expecting it. And And I will be honest, the first 20 minutes of this episode, real slow.
Yeah.
Wait, very dragged out, like, okay. And I don't know, there was just something off about it. But yeah, we
was it
I
off?
like how we go.
I mean, just ask. Yeah, I was just wondering, was the offness of it just sort of the whole, like, I guess, pre-surgery meal, or
well, that just was draggy, like the pre-surgery meal. Like, I felt like we spent 20 minutes of the episode the night before the surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Because the first 20 minutes almost felt like, hey, for those of you who did not watch last week, here's a rundown of where every single character is. And I guess maybe they felt like they needed to do that just because so much happened last week.
Yeah. And it was a good...
Yeah.
Because there was, like, a lot of things that happened, as far as just, especially how it ended, and with Pia, and, get with the shot, and, and the obviously Sarah's DWI, and those kind of things. So it ended on a very, like, dark note. So maybe they felt like they needed those kind of... Yes, it is dark. That this... It's the emotional beat of this show. I mean, they really do play into the emotions, and so, like, they really wanted to set up a very maybe hopeful vibe as far as, yes, Lois got the surgery coming up, but she's got her support system ready for her.
Yeah, she does, which, yeah, I continue to have issues with the whole Lois cancer story arc. She didn't seem sick.
Yeah.
She continues not to seem sick, and it's annoying to me, and I don't know. They could have done so much better with this and handled it so much with more care.
Mm-hmm.
They did at the beginning, but slowly as it's gone on, I've started to lose more. I want to say credibility, but I'm not sure if that's the right word. But yeah, I agree that it ended on a very dark note. But come on, Will. I mean, how much do we really care about Sarah at this point?
Well, actually, so that was
so weird, this episode.
Yeah. Well, so for me, the Sarah Cal, I thought really the MVP, one of the MVPs of this episode was actually Cal. Because he had the true reaction of someone who, he's been kept out of the loop on the secret, other than the other daughter, who I guess at this point is a ghost. But we won't go there. But I did, but he did. I think whenever he's, so he was like, how he had his reactions with Clark. And then he takes his frustrations out on Chrissy. And I don't know if it was her solely. I think she just happened to be the unfortunate person who was there, and just got the brunt of, like, all, everything from how, she treated him like an idiot last week, how Lana has kept this from him, everybody in town, it seems like, and I was reading a blog post from someone I follow on Twitter, and he writes for Comic Book Resources, and he made a good point that the show is sort of sliding towards the Arrowverse, where everybody in the town knows who the secret identity of the hero.
Well, the Arrowverse. I mean, it was part of crossover, so
it's Arrowverse adjacent, I guess. Even though they made it clear they try to separate themselves from it,
but. To counter your point about Kyle, see, I would have liked it more had it been clearer that he was mad at more than just Chrissy, because he spent a lot of time with Lana, didn't mention the thing.
Yeah, but
to the point where I thought as a viewer, does he know that she knows?
They made it clear. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, with the reveal, because everybody. I think with the reveal last week with George, he figured that. Yeah, I think. But,
No,
with Sarah and everything with the wreck. I mean, but he thinks because he thinks.
But right.
Yeah.
He might think Sarah knows, but does he know that Lana knows?
Yeah, I think so.
How?
Yeah.
How?
Because of Jonathan. Obviously he's mistaken about Jonathan, but there was something.
That's how he knows that Sarah knows. What about Lana?
Oh God, there was Clark told him. Whenever they had the reveal, Clark told him.
Well, see, then I don't give the MVP to Kyle because
let me
has been lied to by so many more people than Chrissy. So I don't know.
Well, the second point, as far as why I thought he was the MVP, was more to your point about Sarah and how he handled that. Huh?
I'm gonna counter that too.
Yeah, go right ahead. Yeah, I mean, this basically they're really bringing up the mental health issues and stuff. Yeah, it wasn't so much like where she was just in despair and she was slipping back into depression. But I thought it was, and it could have. I mean, granted, it could have gone a little bit deeper with it. But I think they touched on the surface of what not that she wasn't an alcoholic, but more the depression, and he talks about his depression after his mother dies and other things like that, so that they started the discussion about mental health and getting treated for that. That I don't know. Like I said, it wasn't like deep, but they opened up the door that I thought was welcoming, given that it explored something that I think they needed to do.
Well, a lot of this episode, it's like I was on board with the plot point, but by the end of it, I was like, really? You did that? Because of course they have to go the mental health route, given Sarah's history of when we first meet her. They talk about how she tried to commit suicide because she was so depressed. So I think Lana's reaction of like, you need to talk to your therapist because this is not going to end well. I was kind of like, why did Sarah get so defensive about the drinking? Like, yeah, we know you're not an alcoholic. Like, that's not what this is about. I just thought that was a weird moment. But then it got weirder when the answer was become a waitress. I'm just like, I don't understand how one relates to the other from, I guess, his whole thing about responsibility and having something to do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I almost felt like that was just proving her point more about never being able to get out of Smallville.
Well,
because her what she's viewing right now is she has a DUI. She's not sure about college, like who will take her with this on her record. And also, how does this relate at all to the other things she's dealing with, where she feels like she not only fucked up her like romantic relationship with Jordan, but also now she's learning, we can never be friends. Mm-hmm. Like, I've totally, and yet he still saves me at the end of the day. So she's dealing with a lot of other emotional stuff on top of that. I also personally just like, she's not an alcoholic, but my parenting, and I'm not a parent, but would have been like, but girl, you better not drink if you're a depressed person, because that just makes you more depressed. Like,
yeah, and I think that's where Kyle was coming from. Yeah, and I think that's where Kyle was coming from.
Yeah, but he also never he acknowledged and said, yeah, we know you're not an alcoholic, right? He didn't say, but like a habit like that, one day you're not an alcoholic, but then it leads, if you use that as a crutch
Yeah.
going forward to deal with your issues, you will be an alcoholic.
Yeah, and I think, and I guess, and that's where I was getting. I think you took my point to the next place, which is why I felt that it could have been handled a little deeper, and I think what you just said there is where that was what was missing.
Yeah, and I'm just holding these writers up to the standard that they set. What I thought the standard that they set in season 1 with these characters and with these relationships. So I know people probably think I'm very highly critical and like not being like, at least they touched it, but if I'm a viewer and I'm having these thoughts, I'm gonna share them because
no, you're right. I mean, because they did set a very high bar that first season.
Yeah, the miscarriage episode. I just always go back to that episode because that was like iconic to me. But so while that's all happening, we have surgery day and also Jordan getting X-ray vision because we need to do something with the twins, and we have blackouts because Pia is just losing control because the cure didn't work and basically self-destructs by the end of it.
Yeah.
Which leads me to okay, well, we have gotten to know Mannheim over the last dozen episodes pretty well, especially in terms of his rational thinking when it comes to his wife and son, in terms of his hatred for John Henry.
Yes.
In terms of like his inability to accept the fact that his wife is dying. Did it just seem a bit like too rational how he reacted to Superman bringing her corpse to him, and then the next moment they're at the DOD and he's like, my son goes free, I will admit to everything. It just I felt it was too quick. I was like,
well,
that was a bit quick.
Yeah, it was a fast resolution to that. I would agree with you there. I think there's just a couple things. One to the brothers. What I was thinking was, Jonathan, get out of don't be like right in his line of sight. You're gonna get burned to death if he like has a heat vision moment. Very boys-esque. To the but the Mannheim point, I mean, I think it was very quick resolution, but also I think they were just sort of set. It was clearly it was the juxtaposition they set from the moment when Pia was like losing control of her powers and Lois going into surgery at the same time, and so they just they set up this construct where both husbands were basically had to make a choice, and doing their choice, they're not going to be there with their partner in their moment of need or crisis. So, and you're right. I mean, given all what we've seen of him up to this point in the prior 11 episodes, especially after we learned the reveal of her, Pia being his wife, it was a very, very quick resolution as far as just like him.
It just felt too rational.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess the thing that Pia told Superman whenever she did die, she whispered, maybe that was the thing that pulled him back. That pulled him back, because that is something that he recognized that they always said, even whenever they were doing their criminal enterprises, that was their way of showing love to one another. So even in her last moment, she was still thinking about him, and he was and shared that with Superman, and so maybe that pulled him back to be like, all right, I have really fucked up, and I've done all these things, and at the end of the day, she still died. And now I'm about to lose my son because I pulled him. The one thing that we tried to protect him from was this whole enterprise, and we've pulled him into it now. So maybe that was what was going through his head and the rationale for why he was like, okay, I'll cut a deal.
Yeah, I don't know. Considering earlier in this episode he was going to kill Nat at one point.
Yeah.
It just felt, and this was all the same day. And knowing, being shown through actions how much he, to an irrational extent, will protect his wife and his son. Being confronted with the finality that your wife has died, you did not save her. Mm-hmm. You made it worse. For him to, within like a few hours, be very rational about it. I guess what they set up for the character for me was more of like you killed her.
Yeah.
Like, you did this, like, blame, and I would have been like, that fits, considering he was making her kill John Henry in that episode and almost Superman, and it's just everything, it didn't match, and I guess they couldn't do that, given time constraints.
Yeah.
And so they did what you just described, but to me, it was just so abrupt and did not align with the actions in the previous episode and what was set up for this character and his worldview.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it makes sense. But what also doesn't, something else, I'm just gonna call it out. There's a lot of poor fathering happening on the show, okay? Because John Henry is standing there,
yeah,
knowing his daughter's on the other side, and it's like, you will protect my son. So you're going to have two teenagers who are dating under the same roof? What? Huh?
That was... Yeah, I was just like, okay, how's this going to work here? Okay, all right.
Mateo is gonna go stay with Lois's dad. Maybe that's the solution. Or Kyle and Lana, like, we've been led to believe they have two children. They can just adopt Mateo.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
then they will have two children. Mateo will get more screen time.
Yeah.
But that's one, like, okay, John Henry, I see you.
Yeah.
But the other instant, just to go right back to the twin storyline, is Clark's face. I'm sorry. I love Tyler, right? In this role, he does it great.
Yeah.
I will have to say, in this moment, this is one of his, like, his not so good acting, because just the Jonathan coming in and being like, I got this, Dad, and like being able to calm down his twin while his dad just stands there with a face of like, I don't know how to do anything.
Yeah, but they set that up. They really, they set that up the previous episode.
Yeah. And it's nice because it does harken back to season 1 where we were told Jordan and Jonathan, like Jonathan would always know how to calm down Jonathan.
Yeah.
But still, in that moment, just the lack of words, and it's funny because last week he wanted to spend time with his son. Mm-hmm. Here's your chance to be a father, Clark.
Yep.
What are you doing? You're sad. I don't know. It just was funny to me.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think our 5 + 10 minutes about the Flash has come to an end, or not the Flash, Superman and Lois, because we have Spider-Man to get to.
Yeah.
Something that Will has been waiting a week exactly to talk about.
Yeah.
All right, Will. Well, you have seen this movie twice.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear the movie twice?
So I did hear it. I was at both viewings, both at an AMC theater and at a local independent theater. There was parts. I was hoping you got to tell me what Gwen said at the beginning because the sound mix was so messed up. There were some points where I was like, this is where when you're at home and you can like flip on the closed caption. I had that moment in the theater. The first time I was like, I thought it was for dramatic effect. The second time I was like, something's up. And then, right. and then did see Chris Lord, and other people on Twitter and other places saying that, the sound mix is definitely messed up. So, but other than that issue, I absolutely love this film. I'm still holding to my point that I did last week, both last Thursday and last Friday when I saw it. I'm not going to say it's better than Into the Spider-Verse, and I'm not going to say, but it is. But I will say that it definitely is, and it is still in my top 5 as far as comic book movies for sure. Like all time, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I don't think, I wouldn't say that it's better than the first one. But I think it's on par with what the first one did.
Exactly. That's where I'm at right now.
It's not better, it's not worse.
Yeah.
It's just it's the sequel.
Yep.
But I just want to go back to your point about sound mixing because I find it so funny the handful of times when something is better in Alaska, because I went to the movie on Sunday. Not a problem with the sound mixing. I could hear everything. Can I tell you what she said? No, because I don't remember, because it's a 2.5 hour long movie. Yeah. But wait a second, there's more, Will, because I warned you about this. Okay, guys, before we get into Spidey, I have to have a 5-minute rant about previews. It blows my mind, Will, how this happened. Okay, I already told Will about this one, so now I'm telling all of our listeners. Okay, on Sunday, I was at my parents' house. My parents live in North Pole, okay, which is about 20 to 30 minutes outside of Fairbanks. So I decided to leave, like, pretty much at 3 o'clock to go to the movies. And I drove, and I got to the theater, I want to say 3:20, had to go buy my ticket, had to get to my seat. And I bought my ticket, and I was tempted. I was like, there's the 3:05 showing, and then there's the 3:35 showing. But I'm like, I bet you the movie hasn't even started for the 3:05. Or if it has, I've maybe missed 3 minutes. I walk into the theater, I sit down. They're at the whole stupid, hey, silence your cell phones, blah, blah, blah. God. They've done all of the previews. They just are like, you're in a movie theater, like that stupid gimmicky commercial, whatever. It's not even a preview.
I haven't seen Nicole Kidman yet.
Well, I'm at an AMC. We never see Nicole Kidman.
Okay.
We have this other stupid thing.
Okay.
So I'm just like, oh my God. I literally walked into the theater at 3:30 and the movie that started at 3:05 hadn't even started.
Wow.
That's how many previews there are. Like, and I was clocking it. I was every now and then would look at my cell phone and be like, what time is it? Where are we at in this movie? I got out of the theater at 5:40.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to understand how much, like, when they said this is a 2.5 hour movie,
yeah,
did it count previews?
No, that's just 2:20, start the credits, in the credits, but
I don't know, Will. There's something not adding up to me with that math, and and also, I've been to a lot of 2.5 hour movies. This did not feel like a 2.5 hour movie.
No, it didn't.
This felt like an hour and a half movie.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it went by quick.
Yeah. It did. And that's why I had to see it 2 times. I mean, because the first time, into your rant, go to your support. If you have local independent theaters, support them in your community, because that's what I did the second time. I actually went to a place called the Carolina Theater, which is, and they have a lot of film festivals and stuff here in Durham. But, yeah, they said the movies, start time 6:30. I got there like 6:32 because of traffic, but it started at 6:40. I was like, whew, I'm glad I got there when I did, because I would have missed the not hearing Gwen the second time. So, yeah, support your local independent theater. But to your point, that movie, yeah, I mean it zipped by. I mean, it was just so freaking much, and that's and like I said, I saw it the first time, and I literally it just blew me away. I just couldn't digest it all, because it was just, huh?
I don't think anybody can walk out of that theater and say, I need to watch that movie probably 4 more times just to get maybe 50% of the Easter eggs.
Yeah, and it's not.
To your point earlier about this movie being made for closed caption, it's made for rewind. It's made for everything we love about watching a movie at home.
Yeah, it is. It totally is. And it's not a complaint. I mean, I absolutely love this film. I mean, it's just.
Right. It's really not a complaint. It's just the irony.
Yeah. I mean, everything, just the, and I know you got to hear the notes and we'll get into it, but like the comic book aspect of it, this film, the second film now, they have like, anybody who's read a comic book, how they have the little, the star, the asterisk and the little description box and stuff in there. And that's what I would just love if I could just like hit pause, because I could just see like, canon event, here's what it means, those the Abansky, all those little things, all those details. It's just like, it was just so many details, and I just, this film was just, I was just telling my daughter tonight, I was like, anytime you want to go see it, I'm down. Again, I'm down, because we saw it together, and they haven't seen it the second time, but it's just so many great things about it, and even more so, like we're doing now, we're talking about it, but listen to other podcasts, and like Screen Crush and folks do the Easter eggs, so if I would totally recommend going and check them out, or Heavy Spoilers, to really break down a lot of those Easter eggs, because they do a phenomenal job of really describing those things, if you just want just pure Easter eggs and not any other analysis or whatever. But they do get into some too, but they really like get into it deep.
Right. Well, where do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, let's start with, since we joked about Gwen, let's start with Gwen.
Okay. Gwen starts the movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, which again, I mean, we get a 20 minutes of like Gwen, coming, her story, starting this out, and I like the way they started this. It really set up the film in a way that we have 2 Spider people that we're really going to focus on, Miles and Gwen, and really telling her story, because we got that part, we got it told to us, alluded to into the Spider-Verse, but then we got to see everything that really went down and why she lost her Peter Parker, who was her friend Peter Parker, fleshed out in this film.
Right. Well, yeah, it would have been weird to start this movie out with Miles, because we had the first movie about Miles, and like doing the whole speech, and it just, I think we needed, Gwen plays such a pivotal part in this movie, that you need to understand her motivations. You need to start with her, flesh out more of the backstory, and also why she aligns herself with Miguel.
Yeah.
You need to understand that. If you don't, they're not following the Gwen we met in the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
Just because her actions will seem so weird, but we got all of her motivations within that opening sequence.
Yep.
And that was enough to support a lot of the things that happened throughout the rest of the movie, and a lot of the reason why she behaves, especially around Miles, the way she does,
mm-hmm.
And the choices she makes. So I agree. I like that opening sequence a whole lot. Love to see paper machete vulture.
yeah.
Paper, there are so many levels to this movie, just because it's animated.
Mm-hmm.
They were able to take different universes to a whole new level.
Yeah.
Because the art design varied so much between the universes that it just made everything that much more visual and fascinating, rather than how and I'm not just talking about Doctor Strange, but how we've seen in other genre shows and movies try to attempt the multiverse, but really sticking to, it's just the same people,
right?
Or it's the same place, but it's just people in different characters. It's not. But this visually took it to a multiverse level that was very cool and surprising.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, and you're right. I mean, and it's only. I guess that's the thing, as far as just to take it to the next step, as far as if Miles is ever translated to live action, they won't be able to tell this type of story in live action and ever come close to doing it justice to like you said, to your point, because of the animated universe allows for it, to give all those textures, from the watercolor of Gwen to the, with hobby punk, as far as the post, the dystopia and the color schemes. I mean, when we're on Miles' Earth versus Earth 42 versus wherever. I mean, there's just so many, there's just, and this is where, I will say, because, just to go put it out there, I mean, people are starting to talk about, will this film be considered for Best Picture this year with the Oscars and stuff, and I do see some parallels to Everything Everywhere All at Once, because it was also another multiverse type of story, and it was a unique and textured way of really going through all these various universes, presented, at least in Everything Everywhere, in a different way than that we've seen it, where there was the over-reliance in CGI and stuff, in some of the other places, or like you said, or just same people, just different, sets turned a different way. And so I do see that similar vibe here with how they really flesh out the multiverse here in Across the Spider-Verse.
Right. What are your thoughts about the Spot, the villain of the week?
Yeah, I love that moment. From the moment he was introduced with the ATM machine and the redundancy. Why are you calling the machine? I mean, that and the chai. Yeah, I'll even joke about the chai later. But with Spot, he, and I it was a great way, instead of him just coming out of the gate being fully powered or whatever, but to see that evolution within the movie,
right.
and then teasing it he's going to be the main villain, but then as we'll get deeper into this, we really see who the villains really are.
He still is the big villain. I mean,
well,
he's
yes,
the one who's gonna kill Miles' dad.
Well, he's gonna. Well, yeah. I mean, well, yeah. He is the big villain in the traditional sense. Yes. I mean, as far as
Right.
with the
Right.
canon, with the canon event that that all Spider people must have, and it doesn't necessarily have to mean that a person close to them dies, but but there is that.
Yeah.
But
But like it's to me, the more I think about it with the Spot, especially when we talk about his first sequence with the ATM machine, he talks a lot.
He does.
Both him, like, and there's always that cliche, like the arch nemesis is basically the evil version of your main character.
Mm-hmm.
And in this way, when you think about the way he fights
Mm-hmm.
and the talk,
Yeah.
he definitely is like Spidey, and I only bring that up because there's a whole joke about how much Spider-Man constantly, like it's a known thing.
Yep, it is.
Universe. Like, dear Lord.
Yeah.
But it is interesting how he's not the opposite, like he's not the same powered villain, but in so many ways he is a foil of Spider-Man.
He is.
The more I think about it, and I think that's why he works so well to become this arch nemesis and to become maybe the catalyst of the ultimate like thing that Miles has to overcome. But yeah, another reason why he works is because he can play that part while at the same time there are, I don't want to say there's more dangers, but there's other threats and there's other issues that Miles is dealing with throughout this movie that allows the plot not to get too stale, to one note.
Right.
Because like to your point, there is a lot of other like not necessarily bad guys, but not also on Miles' team. Like all Spideys don't get along all the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Exactly. Another thing too about Spot before we move on from him is I know with the growth, he also and you're right. I didn't think about that until you raised it, but you're right. I mean, he does talk a hell of a lot, but also the more he talks, he went from being very kind of like CW-ish to like early on, but then as he grew and he grows in his power and stuff, the malevolence and the really started to resonate more in his voice, where you got more of that threat. Like you realized, like, oh yeah, he could kill Jeff.
Yeah, and that's the way when we talk about Easter eggs or nods, the movie is filled with them, from the art design to the voice acting to everything, and that's why this movie is meant to be rewatched. It just is. And for me, coming out of the movie, I was like you. It's not better than the first one because I would argue it doesn't have a real ending. But it's an interesting discussion to have that this movie can spark about sequels, especially a sequel in a trilogy.
Yeah.
Just because there's two routes you can take with it. You can have your sequel, and we've seen this so many times with Marvel sequels, like that second movie. Oh, this is just as like its own story that kind of connects to the first one. But it's just like, it's like a filler, and then you get your big one in the third one, and but it's its own story, so it stands alone at the same time. Or you get your two towers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lord of the, which this felt so much like Two Towers for me. I know everyone's saying Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was that dark.
No, I don't think so either.
No, it felt more like Two Towers, which I will admit makes me really hesitant about the third one, just because this climax is so high that then we have to wait, and like I'm a person who thinks that Infinity War is better than Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I've watched Infinity War far more times than I've watched Endgame, just because you know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, same. Same. Yeah, you're right. And I think a lot of other people are. I think part of it too is people are doing the Empire comparison is because Empire is a better film than A New Hope. It is. And so I think there is that that level to it as well. Another thing too that I thought that whenever we first started talking about this film, it was going to be Across the Spider-Verse Part 1 and then Part 2. But then about a year or so ago, they made the decision we're not going to do it the Part 1, Part 2, but they rebranded them Across and then Beyond. And I think actually I'm glad. Now that I've seen it, I'm actually glad that they went that route, because speaking to the ending, when they did the To Be Continued, that was the first, that was the only time, once I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. It was supposed to be a Part 1, but I wasn't dissatisfied with the way it ended. I know some people. I was like, oh, I like what, to your point, is that it is a very Two Towers. I found that a better comparison than Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, because I remember Two Towers being like so amped, and then I'm like, what? Why? Why? What? We have to wait a year, and now we have to wait 9 months. I think it is annoying. It's an annoying ending, because you're like, oh, we were just getting to the good part.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
The wait. It feels. You're so immersed in this movie, and to talk about the ending, because we're already there. Not to say that we won't go back and talk about a few other things before we wrap this up, but the ending. Did it get you? Were you? Because I will admit, this movie got me.
It got me too.
I was not thinking. I was just watching, absorbing. Yep. So did I notice that the mom's eyes were green? No. Nope. Did I notice everything in the room different color? No.
Nope.
I was stuck on like, dude, zip up your coat. You're totally wearing the suit. I can see it.
Yep.
And so it got me how. And it was perfect. It was a perfect, like, the viewer is so immersed, they're not going to realize, hey, we told you maybe 10 minutes ago that this machine will send you back to the Earth that your spider came from.
Yeah. And
oh yeah, we told you Miles was bitten by the wrong spider.
Right.
It was not supposed to be Spider-Man.
Yep.
And so he's sent. He thinks he's going home. He ends up on Earth 42. And it also got me, because I was just like, yeah, this dude's Prowler. Like, oh wait, no, he's not. No, and I knew, but a part of me wanted it actually to be the dad for some reason. I don't know. I was all over the place at this point.
Yeah. So the Prowler, So I started to suspect I was like, now where's whenever he arrived in Earth 42 and he got in the room and stuff. So all the visual clues, I was like you. I was so engrossed in the story that at that point I was just like, I'm not focusing on like all the clues in the room. I was focused on Miles, and he's finally, he's home, and he's gonna tell Rio he's gonna tell his mom I'm Spider-Man. He's gonna finally do it. And so when he told her, and she was like, she didn't have the reaction I thought she was going to have. I was like, what's going on? But I still didn't didn't fully appreciate what was going on until that moment when he, when Uncle Jeff shows up, and then I was like, oh fuck, So then I was like, and that's when I was just like, oh, did Spot.
As soon as Miles realizes, you realize. And that's why I say it was played perfectly. Yeah. Because that is when we are supposed to realize, is when Miles realizes it. Yeah. And I love how the mom's reaction didn't even throw me. I was like, Miles, I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, yeah. But when Jeff, when Aaron walks in, and then I'm like, oh. But even then, I was just like, okay, he's at a new Earth. All right, I'm going along. But then they end up they go up to the top, and they end up in the room. And instead of into the Spider-Verse, Peter B. Parker was the one ended up on the punching bag. Mm-hmm. And then, but this film is Miles, and then the whole Prowler, and even he's getting the Prowler gear and stuff. But even at that, I mean, when they had the big reveal that. That this Earth's Miles is the Prowler. I was just like, holy shit. I was just like, you're right. I was like, dude, why I gotta wait till March? I want this now. Yeah. And assuming they stay with March, at this point they may move it to next summer.
Watch your mouth. What about Miguel? What are your thoughts on Miguel?
So Miguel and Jessica Drew are like the thing that whenever they had the big chase and everything around those characters, basically for me it was like skinfolk ain't necessarily kinfolk, because I mean I know he's Irish, Mexican, Jess is, I think she's Afro Latina as well, maybe, or she may be fully African American. But the point is, person of color doesn't always mean that's going to be, there's not necessarily going to be your natural ally. Mm-hmm. And so that was, and so between how Miguel was treating Miles as far as the whole canon event and the anomaly and all that, I mean, there was definitely that element where I was just like, Hobby's right. There was the Hobby Spider-Punk was necessary to help show Miles that he was that foil to show Miles that the establishment isn't always cracked up what it is, what you think it is.
Also Gwen.
Yeah.
Because Gwen is just as lost in this as Miles is, because they are kids.
Yeah.
And they both in a way are running from their parents, from their reality, and from their world. They're teenage runaways.
Yeah.
And so Gwen I think served that role in the first one.
Yep.
But to your point, that's why they needed to bring in Hobby, so he could do that, make that juxtaposition, and really be the cool uncle who's not the Prowler.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not a, but kind of like, this is fun, but just remember, there's someone pulling the strings. There's someone who this is their mission or their worldview that may not align with you the more you start to understand. But yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, with Jess, because I mean, even Jess recognizes it too. I mean, she's just like, we're supposed to be the good guys, if I recall. I think didn't she utter that line? Whenever.
I frankly don't remember for sure, but you're right that there are cracks in her allegiance to Miguel, and I think part of that is because we're led to believe that there's this mother-daughter relationship going on between her and Gwen, and she's pregnant at the time, so her maternal instincts are on full blast.
Yeah.
So she doesn't like she's the one who didn't want to leave Gwen behind.
Right.
So in a way, if Miguel wants to be pissed at anybody, he should be pissed at her, because if Gwen hadn't gone with him, then she wouldn't have gone and seen Miles, and none of this would have happened. So I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Jessica, take some accountability.
Yep.
But and then so she starts to see it, and so does Peter B. Parker, who I'm glad they brought him back, and Mayday.
Yep.
Mayday.
Yep.
Okay, Will.
Yeah.
Will. Okay, while we're talking, I was waiting on this, and we're here. So the third movie opens. Is there better odds for the opening like that? I'm Spider-Man. This is my story. Coming from Mayday or Earth 42 Miles?
Mayday.
Okay. Because I can go either way. I would love Mayday opening, but I can also see why they would do, like, you think you're going to open with an Spider-Man origin story, but this is about Miles, so we're going to do the Prowler origin story on Earth. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, too.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it could go either way, especially the way that thing ended, you can make strong arguments for both. I think you're right, though. Probably will end up with Miles of Earth 42 give his origin story.
Yeah. So was your favorite new Spider-Man or Spider-Man version, was it Hobie?
It was Hobie.
It was Hobie. Yeah, it's hard not to.
Yeah, I don't know, but Button, I don't know. Indian Spider-Man was good too, though. I mean,
he was, but
especially the whole chai. I think from the comic relief point, with the chai. I mean, it's from just me just having that. My wife's Indian, and like having. I think it was like that South Asian, hearing that chai tea discussion before, it just landed on me like so many times over why I just kept, every time they said chai, I just started laughing because it just landed.
Yeah.
From the cold. Yeah.
And there are more than just chai out there, guys.
Yeah.
There's also I could go into a different story, but I'm not right now. But there's other things that
non-bread.
Yeah.
It's just bread. I mean, just
Yeah. What was I gonna say? It's hard not to like just automatically go to Hobie, because I think we got the most from him in terms of time, and also he felt more like if he had been in the first movie, he would have been part of the gang. Like it didn't feel too new. He felt familiar in a way.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? What else? I'm just trying to think about.
Yeah. I mean, I know we touched. Yeah, I know we touched a little bit on the canon events. Just that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're not gonna not talk about the best cameo.
Oh yeah.
Donald Prowler.
Yeah.
Right. I heard people explain the meta on top of meta of this cameo appearance.
Mm-hmm.
It hit anybody who's ever seen a single movie. My theater was not packed. However, I heard just as many little voices as I heard big voices laughing. And we've talked about a few movies recently, superhero movies in particular, and humor. And this got the most laughs, like consistent.
Yeah, same. Both theaters.
And rightfully so.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. And like you can maybe understand one level of the meta-ness and just appreciate this cameo. But shout out to them for doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I learned, like, to go back to Hobie, it took me just one podcast to know that, yeah, that was Daniel.
Yep.
I like that too. Like nobody remembers he's British.
No one does. Yep.
So, oh my God, I love that.
Yep.
I love that we saw the team at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole canon, this whole idea, because this is the multiverse done right, but this is a Spider-Verse. And considering last year we started our year talking about No Way Home.
Mm-hmm.
And in particular their switch up with the death, sorry, spoiler alert, the death of May instead of Uncle Ben.
Mm-hmm.
There is no Uncle Ben in that universe.
Nope.
But how that caught us all off guard. And it's not that this whole thing that it hit me in this way, but it was very interesting, like how, and maybe that was the wrong thing to bring up. It just it felt so much like in the first one when you're watching it and it finally like hits you, like, yeah, Spider-Man all this time has just been a metaphor for adolescence. I mean, white stuff comes out, right? Like,
right.
Come on, guys.
Yep.
But this movie, it's so much about just like this character there are so many different versions of him,
mm-hmm.
or her, or them,
mm-hmm.
yet there is this consistency, and it always reminds me of when we talked about What If, and what I said about Peter Parker, and that, like, in the wake, he's dealt with a lot of loss at such a young age, but he's consistently optimistic.
Yeah.
And this is where, again, I have another hesitation about the third movie, because I totally understand, like, Miles has to write his own destiny,
mm-hmm.
but a part of me is like, dude, let your father die, because it's not that I'll lose credibility with you, it's just that you haven't lost as much.
Well, but I think, but it's, I don't know if it's necessarily father. I think it's father figure. To your point, May was the you know, it's that figure as far as, like, if you whenever a Peter or a Spider person has lost someone.
So the mom can die.
Yeah.
I just need someone close to him die. But
I think he's already had that moment though. I think with Aaron. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and that did run through my mind, where I'm like, but I thought in the first one it was the Uncle Aaron moment.
Yeah.
So why doesn't that count? And also, but then there was that weird moment when he pointed out, your dad's a captain, Gwen.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't deny, like, it's almost as if she knows her dad's going to die, and that's why she was so happy when he resigned as being captain.
Right.
And then I'm starting to think, okay, we get it. In this universe, there's this captain thing, but in my universe, it's always about Ben.
Right. Or in Gwen, to your point, in Gwen's universe, instead of being her captain, Stacy, her canon event is Peter dying as a lizard.
Yeah. Right.
And I think it's in you know, and I think too, like I said, I think the canon events, it could also be, you know, it could be, you know, then some canon it's Gwen and Peter getting together, or is Peter and Mary Jane getting married, you know, and so I mean I think it's yeah.
I think the canon events are death. Like, I'm dark in the inside, and I'm just gonna say, like, kid has to lose something.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's got to lose something. Yeah, but I mean, I don't know if it has to necessarily mean death. I mean, like, you know, Gwen made the point. It's like usually most universes, Peter and Gwen get together at some point. Maybe in this one they don't. You know, that could be the loss.
Yeah. Right. Which, I mean, they kind of had that loss been rectifying that with this movie, and how
Yes.
they don't like that they have to be the only one of them in their world, and they want to run away and be with people who are like them. So I don't know. But it's as a viewer and as a love of this character
Mhm.
and this version of this character. Again, I'm
Yeah,
just
I hear you.
speaking about my hesitancies and things that, like, I wonder what they're gonna do. They're gonna surprise me.
Yeah.
They already have this figured out. They're gonna pull it off. I'm just saying somebody has to die, and it better not be Mayday. And
It
to your
could be.
point, I thought actually you were gonna say it's gonna be Peter B. Parker.
I was about to say it, yeah. I was just about to say
Yeah,
it, yeah.
yeah. Which I don't know. But granted, we're talking about this movie, which we did not get as much Peter B. Parker as we did in the first movie.
No.
We might get more in the third movie, and if we do, that might be very serviceable. But we'll see. Um, it's just like, to be continued endings, so annoying, but great for theory spirals.
It's awesome for theory spirals. I
Great
mean,
for
yeah,
theory.
Miguel, yeah, I mean, even Miguel, like, getting to, like, his breaking his own canon by, like, replacing his spider, and also the fact that he wasn't bitten. He, like, manufactured his, spider powers. So, so I think canon events can be any number of things, is my take on
Yeah,
that.
yeah, and it's just like, I mean, to that point, he he's upset. Well, him calling out Miles for how his powers came about. Like, dude,
Hmm.
talk about hypocrisy.
Yeah.
You manufactured yours. So yeah, it's very interesting. And this is just further proven very well written,
Yeah.
because you see all the angles, and you don't have editors. I am so anxious to get into the next topic.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Let's do it.
but, like, yeah, you don't have editors to, like, say, oh, you're telling the truth now. Oh, here's a photo to just disprove that you're lying. Oh my God. But yeah, everyone, I'm sure within the next 9 months we'll definitely have little rambles about
Yeah.
this movie as
Maybe,
we pregame for the final movie of the
maybe,
trilogy. But
maybe we could do a watch along or something before the next movie comes out, something like that.
yeah, that will be like a 3-hour movie, because every 3 minutes we'll be like, pause it. Did you see this? Let's
Yep.
analyze. But okay, that's a wrap on Nerd Talk, because, oh my God, I just
Yeah.
Vanderpump Rules. Okay,
Hey,
Will,
yeah. Yeah.
Will.
Yep.
The big reveal.
Yeah.
Bravo overplayed their hand. As for a viewer, I think you got more out of it than I did.
Yeah, I did. I completely agree with you there, because I'm a Vanderpump virgin.
Yes.
So literally, yeah. So I was just like, as I mentioned to you earlier today, I was like, I had two holy fuck moments. That was one of them.
But so here's my question.
Yeah.
As a VPR version,
Yeah.
did you believe her because the last 5 minutes that they've been boasting will change everything, is Raquel finally, quote unquote, owning up to the entire timeline?
Yeah.
But did you believe her? And also, did you believe those tears?
Yes and yes. Well, the tears, yeah, I think I do. I think I did. I mean, and I don't know. I don't have the experience with these characters
Right.
like you do, but But I will say, just given the dynamics that she and Tom had, and especially to your as you were joking earlier about editing, thinking back to the I guess it was the first reunion show or second part two, where the trailer where Tom was just like, I need some space, I just want to talk to her without the camera.
Part two.
Yeah, part two. Yeah, it was last week. So where he wants to talk with the camera off.
Mm-hmm.
And also the whole cast, the whole crew, everybody there on stage and all, and Tom trying to manufacture the timeline and all.
Oh yeah.
I do think that she was being honest about when they actually did hook up, and I think there is some Well,
she also claimed they didn't go to St. Louis, and yet they showed a photo
of them there
from her Instagram.
Yeah.
Okay.
God, yes.
How do you do that? And then also there were all those weird moments when the producer was asking a question, and she would have this blank face and smile, and then he'd be like, "Oh, that's a lie too."
Yeah.
Which the producer, why didn't you ask about the Coachella thing? Okay,
yeah.
Because that was pretty much all of the things that she, in the last 5 minutes in that interview, contradicted and said, no, that actually did happen.
Yeah.
Were very, like, you could remember it from the reunion about those questions being asked, because they also did a good job of her clearly, whenever Tom responded to those questions, she, like, I could already tell, I was like, that's a lie.
Yeah.
That's a lie. And it just, she was not, I don't believe the tears, because, for two reasons. One, I don't believe the tears because, well, maybe you could say the tears were real because she really doesn't like lying. I guess I was just angry by that because I'm like, dude, you don't like lying and you're upset that you had to lie, yet you're not upset that you hurt all of your friends who want nothing to do with you right now. You're not upset that you're now a whore, seen as one, and just, like, played for this fool. Like you're not upset at your actions. You're upset that you had to lie about them. I don't understand that.
Yeah.
And also, it's really hard for me to take her seriously when she's crying, when they show that behind the scenes clip after she finally leaves the stage, and she goes in there and then breaks down and says, "Man, I'm like, it's a lot. I don't like being seen this way." And then 2 minutes later, she's suddenly laughing about it.
Yeah.
Because of a comment that James made about how Allie's an upgrade.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, say what you want about Sandoval. He's consistent.
He is.
He's just like, one moment she's in tears, the next moment she's like stone-faced and doesn't understand, like, clearly has forgotten her lines. I don't know. She just makes it. And then why, as a viewer, why a lot of the OG viewers and a lot of the people who have been following Scandoval, like, for the last 3 months, this twist was not big enough. It's because for the last 3 months, while the show is airing, these, like, Lala, Sheena, have both had podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
And they've talked about all of these lies and kind of explained and disproved them. And, like, so I was not surprised when Raquel's like, yeah, I spent the night and we had sex at their house.
Oh,
in their room. Like,
in their room when the grandmother died. It's like, that was just like, oh my
God, I can't believe you said that just because of something that happened, like, early in the show. Like,
no, it was the comment with the T-shirt. Let's talk about the T-shirt.
Oh my God. I don't know what was a longer silence after he said that, or in this reunion part 2 when he had to answer the "Did Sheena punch Raquel?" question. Like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you told me that was one of your holy fuck moments, but yeah,
well, it was more not so much. Well, I mean, it was more just like, dude, really? Like, it was just disgusting that he said that. One, just, it was like, I mean, not. How did I answer? How did I say this without, like? I will say, I mean, it was not so much the T-shirt comment.
Mm-hmm.
It was more like his comment after, like, that, where he was just basically like saying he was disgusted by that. Whereas, I mean, like I don't know, it was just one of those things where as a guy, it was just like, I know so many people that's and just looking on Twitter, like women and men both just like responding to that, like, dude, I mean, a lot of people really find that pretty hot, and his body language, his vibe, his delivery, everything about it was as much that than that was the part that really just like made me like, this guy is just like, who is this man? It was just disgusting to me that he was, that aspect of it was what was disgusting.
See, in a weird way, I was like, thank you for saying that, because because so much of this reunion, mm-hmm. he's had to bite his tongue. Mm-hmm. And there's been a few moments of outbursts, and that was one of them, and that was the biggest one.
Yeah.
Where and it reminds me, because Ariana is finally doing interviews, mm-hmm. And I think it was Call Me Daddy did a big interview with her, and she talked about their final scene in the season finale, and how she was so happy when he started yelling at her and they were capturing it on camera.
Yeah.
Because it's like, thank you for showing the public, like, helping me prove my story and my perspective.
Yeah.
Because she knows what he's gonna do. He's gonna somehow manipulate the situation so he's the victim, mm-hmm. and she's the crazy one. Yep. That didn't happen. And the longer this reunion went on, he's realizing, like, this is not working out. And so he's going to have that outburst moment because, yeah, he's 40 and James is 25. And James is James.
Yeah.
But they are very similar at times. Mm-hmm. And it did annoy me, like at some points I'm like, guys, get James off the stage. He's had his moment.
Yeah.
I really need to hear more from Katie, mm-hmm. because Katie should have went in on Scandoval. I wanted that so bad.
Yeah.
And I just felt like James would not allow some of these women to talk about it. But yeah, that moment I was like, oh my god. But I wasn't also surprised, because I'm like, of course he would say something about that, because he is also coming from the trailer moment from part 2 where Raquel was even like, dude, you told me you weren't having sex.
Right.
And Ariana picked up on this, mm-hmm. and she's like, oh, I'm gonna say this. So of course he's gonna come back with something like that, that disgusting, because she's totally fucking up his game.
Yeah.
But then again, it's like, Raquel, you spent Valentine's Day with them. Mm-hmm. Like, you watched them, and whenever it was the three of you, they were kissing. I know, yeah. What the heck was that moment? I think the biggest twist was when it was Raquel's idea that they, like, she first...
Oh, the threesome?
Said, we could be a throuple.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. That was, yeah, the threesome was, for me, was kind of like, huh, okay. I mean,
my God.
yeah, I'm like, I mean, just, do you have any self-esteem or pride, or just, I mean, and you know, Lala, I mean, you know, because that was to your point about James, and also everybody on during the prime part of the episode, the constant like shouting over one another, and then like you know, no one's coming to this with clean hands, and
yeah,
and so it reached a point for me where, you know, part of me, I was like you, just kick James off the stage because he's not adding anything.
right.
Schwartz was just kind of there.
Oh, but okay, but Schwartz did have that one moment where he asked the most bizarre question, and we got some of the most emotion from Ariana.
Yeah.
And at first I was like, oh, it's just gonna go in on him, because why the fuck would you ask that question? Like, oh, we're just been spending hours talking about like Tom's downfall. So while the world's hating him, Ariana, how does it feel that everyone loves you now?
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah, that was just like, dude, I mean, and I know they're coming back for season 11, but I'm like, after this reunion, like, how do they come back?
Hey, that's been the question since March 1st when
Yeah.
the news broke. Like, how do you, because like in that stupid restraining order, like
Yeah.
Sheena would still has not spoken to Raquel, never received an apology for anything, because I guess Raquel doesn't know how to write handwritten letters and like send it on a pigeon.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's but I have heard some of the cast members say, we don't want them to be fired. We just are not going to film with them. Like,
yeah. Well, it makes sense. I mean, you don't want to cut the gravy train for sure, but
right, which a part of me going into this was thinking, like, is Tom gonna at the end of it say, this was because I fucked up my entire life to save this show? I would have been fascinated had he said that, because I was thinking about this.
Yeah.
We're talking about somebody who's been on this show for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, 10 years of his life. He's been in a relationship for almost that same amount of time on screen.
Yep.
He's opening his own restaurant on top of already having a piece of one of Lisa's restaurant. He has his band. He's like on the top of the world.
Yeah.
So it's like pure self sabotage, or the producers came to him and some of the OGs and said, guys, our ratings are not doing good.
Yeah.
We're gonna try to spice it up, but we need more, or else the show's gonna get canceled.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tom thought to himself, well, the biggest thing that has ever happened in reality TV shows are when people get cheated on.
Yeah.
So let me just try this again.
Yeah. Just run this out. Yeah.
That would have been a huge twist, and also the cast members might be like, okay, this is going too far.
Yeah. I did see where Lisa is, like, she's starting a new another show on Hulu. Yeah.
Yeah, I just saw that today, but still, I've been digesting the finale.
Oh, I have to. Yeah. It's been so, you know, because there's other people out there right now like me who, because of you, because of friends like you, who's like, oh, bringing it up, you gotta watch this, and now I'm sucked in, and so, like, you know, now that I know they'll be filming this summer, and so I'm like, okay, you know, next step for me is like, okay, let me ping Sarah, get some good Vanderpump podcasts. I know you sent me a couple.
Oh, that one with Nick Vale, where last week he interviewed one of Ariana's best friends, who actually appeared in the finale. Fascinating.
It was. I watched,
And further proves why I can't legitimately take anything that Raquel or Tom says seriously. I just can't.
Yeah.
I really,
Yeah.
I struggle with it because they're saying things, they're doing other things, and I don't think that they mean. I mean, that's, yeah.
Well, there's there's the receipts. I mean, like the question: Did you go to? Have you been to St. Louis? No. And then the receipt. Boom. Oh, there's the Instagram photo. I mean, that's.
So, yeah, it's oh my god, it's so mind-boggling. It's as mind-boggling as just answer the question: why the fuck did you buy a lightning bolt necklace?
Yep.
Like what? On knowing that like and then wear it when and flaunting it when you're around Ariana, like it just doesn't, nobody's answering that question. Like, why would you do this on TV? Like, what did you expect? Oh my god, it's just it's mind-boggling. But we have gone on and on about a lot of different things.
And one thing, so we can fairly put this in our CNN Nerd show because they are totally advertising towards us because I saw a couple flash promos during the episode last night. So there you go.
Hey, we may be called CNN Nerd. You can be nerdy about reality TV shows.
You totally can.
Me, I'm like a Vanderpump Rules encyclopedia.
You totally are.
Oh my god. It's ridiculous the history I know about this because I've seen the show 5 million times.
Yeah. Well, I am glad. I am so excited that you. I know I didn't convert you to Star Trek, but there's 50 years of lore. But with Vanderpump, I'm so glad you pulled me in because this is I have been my reality TV diet has been very starved lately, and I'm glad to be sitting at this table with you.
Yeah, it's a lot of tea. It's a lot of tea, and we'll see what happens with season 11. I'm sure we'll get some information about it. I hope that I don't though. I never follow what happens off season. This is the first time, so.
Okay.
So we'll see what I'm just curious. I'm just curious about where this is gonna go.
Yeah.
Because it's a 10-year show. There's been a lot of like people not wanting to film with people. So this isn't a first, but this is rarely significant. But anyways, on that note, Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me on Twitter at Will M. Polk, WILLMPOLK.
You can find me at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at CNN Nerd, friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and visit our website, www.cnnerdpodcast.com. But most importantly, rate, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get podcasts. Good night. Keep out. You're welcome.